Sex, AIDS, and Adolf Hitler, three elements that mixed together are creating one heck of a controversy in Germany and beyond.
Hi, Kira. Yes, this advert campaign certainly is causing a stir, both here in Germany and internationally. Before I tell you any more about why, judge for yourself. Let's take a look at what's involved. It's a fairly standard sex scene like you see in the movies. Lithe bodies in the throes of erotic passion. Sexy stuff, until you see who the leading man in this particular love scene is. Adolf Hitler. The tagline to this ad, AIDS is a mass murderer. Basically, we wanted to give the virus itself a face, and this cannot be a beautiful face, says the ad's creator, Dirk Zilz. And that's why we hit on Adolf Hitler, he says. The clip's designed for a German AIDS lobby group called Rainbow to remind people to use protection. It's pegged to World AIDS Day on December the 1st. Joseph Stalin and Saddam Hussein also feature. But some other AIDS awareness groups say the campaign is sensationalist and counterproductive. It unconsciously says there are good and guilty murderers who pass the virus on, and that's not the case, says Jörg Litwinschul from the German AIDS Help Group. Groups like Litwinschul's are asking Rainbow to pull the campaign. The ad agency itself says it never expected this kind of attention. Of course, we expected some reactions, and we've been prepared for this, but not for 40,000 to 50,000 clicks per day, says Dirk Zilz. YouTube has removed the ad from its site, but Rainbow says its message must be heard, that the ad will save lives. Now, the group behind this campaign, Kira, say that awareness of AIDS has fallen even though the illness itself is increasing in scope. And if you think about it, there are 28 million people who've already died as a result of this disease. So it is one of the biggest mass killers in history. On the other side, of course, those people who are AIDS sufferers and those people who carry HIV but haven't developed full-blown AIDS say this is far too simplistic a vision. And also, we find it deeply offensive in any way to be associated with people like Hitler, Stalin, Saddam Hussein, three of the most terrible dictators that there have ever been, Kira. And
let me just ask you, there in Germany, I mean, obviously the sight and the thought of Adolf Hitler is not a comfortable thing in that country. And there are laws that forbid Nazi symbols in Germany. Does this fall into that in any way?
It doesn't. This has not been censored as such. It's up to individual TV stations to decide whether or not they're going to run it. As you said, there are laws against certain Nazi symbols, the swastika, for example, but this doesn't fall into that category. That said, one of the networks we spoke to today, RTL, had aired a clip of this online campaign on one of its news programs just to see what the reaction was. The reaction had been so strongly opposed to them running the advert that they decided to pull it from their air and from their sister networks. So it's definitely causing a bit of a stir, not universal censorship by any sort of authoritative government body, but certainly self-censorship amongst many of the channels that might be airing it, Kira.
Anna Magne, appreciate you covering the story for us. You know, ads, commercials, public service campaigns, for that matter, news broadcasts have to get your attention to be effective, but it's also possible to alienate the people that you're trying to influence. Joining me now with opposite views of the AIDS mass murderer campaign, Kelly McCann, CEO of AIDS Foundation Houston, and Mark Cloutier, CEO of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. And Kelly, let's start with you. What do you think?
Well, when I first viewed this ad, I'll admit I was shocked and my jaw dropped. But I was shocked by the power of the message, not because the message was offensive. I thought that while controversial, this was an important way of getting awareness of HIV increased and also a way of really driving home the point that AIDS is a killer. Would you want to see it here in the U.S.? Yes, I would. I know that the sexual images would probably limit the audience here in the United States, but in an era where many Americans are experiencing prevention fatigue and they're tuning out HIV messages, I would like to see this aired because this is an ad that certainly gets your attention and gets you talking about this very important topic.
Mark Cloutier, you know it's a topic that needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed. You're the policy guy that worked with Barbara Boxer, that was involved in putting together legislation to get it out there to make a difference. What do you think of this way of exposing HIV/AIDS and the horrors behind it?
Kira, I actually think this ad is very destructive. The good part of it is it's provoking. It may get people's attention. What you have a duty, though, when you get people's attention, to help them understand the behaviors that protect themselves. So putting aside the issue of that Hitler image makes people who have HIV into victims or perpetrators, which again is the wrong message. We don't want to say that people who have HIV are mass murderers. That alienates them. It's the wrong message. It stigmatizes HIV further. Moreover, when we get people's attention, we need to help them figure out how they protect themselves. So we need to tell them that using condoms is an effective tool for preventing HIV prevention, and that's not in this message.
So, Kelly, with your experience, because I think it's fair to say this is pretty scary to look at. It actually made me extremely uncomfortable. Have you seen scare tactics work when it comes to trying to get people to not have unprotected sex?
Well, and while I won't say necessarily scare tactics, because I don't necessarily qualify this ad as a scare tactic, I think it is a very controversial but a creative and an innovative way of delivering an HIV awareness message. And that's what I think is the key. You know, we have 50,000 or more new HIV infections in our country every year. And so I think it's important to devise a variety of messages that will reach all kinds of people. And that's the most important thing. And one other thing I'd like to add, I don't believe that this ad maligns people living with AIDS. I don't believe that this ad puts people living with HIV on a par with Hitler. Instead, I thought this ad used very powerful images and a strong negative association to vilify AIDS. And I'm okay with us vilifying this disease. We need to declare war on AIDS.
Interesting. What do you think about that, Mark?
We do need to declare war on AIDS, and the way to do that is not to, again, turn people into victims by it or to make people who transmit HIV perpetrators. It's to give people solutions about how they protect themselves and respect the dignity of other people. There's no way you can win this war by doing it in a negative fashion. We need to help people with positive messages that help them change their behavior and respect other people
well,
who
Mark,
are struggling with this disease.
Okay, I'm hearing what you're saying, prevention and positive messages and supporting people, totally get it. But tell me what has worked to this point with such high numbers and such a high death toll and the spread of HIV/AIDS. Tell me what has worked or what is working right now that you see is making a difference in the way that you're saying you support.
So what is making a difference is that we know that condoms are highly effective. Getting people to use condoms more frequently every time they have sex is a proven prevention strategy. Getting people tested to understand their HIV status so they can get in treatment if they're positive or engage in reducing risk behavior so they don't transmit HIV to others are very proven ways of reducing risk behavior and thereby attacking this disease that continues to ravage the United States. As was said, about 50,000 cases of new HIV infections are occurring here.
So, Kelly,
and we know how to prevent them.
Kelly, is that enough? Or,
well,
my feeling is you're going to support exactly what Mark said, but would that, in addition to something like what we're seeing in Germany, be the way to create more conversation, create more awareness? Because it's truly been unbelievable the type of attention that these PSAs have created. Even those that created the ads didn't expect it to go worldwide like it has and receive the 100,000 hits a day.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And I do, of course, agree with all of those proven prevention strategies. But raising awareness and overcoming the complacency that I think a lot of people have developed because of new effective treatments for HIV, I think many people have developed a very complacent attitude about HIV. And so they're not using condoms on a regular basis. They are not following through with safer sex practices. So absolutely, anything that will allow us to generate discussion, raise awareness, and sometimes even reach out and grab us and shake us into reality. Frankly, we support that.
Well, it definitely grabbed our attention. And final thoughts, Mark, because we got to go.
I want to fundamentally disagree with anything. We should do the things that have the biggest impact, that does get people's attention and drives them immediately to change their behavior.
Well, we're definitely talking about it, and that's a positive thing.